talk a little bit about your background, like,
Yeah.
you know. I know you've come from Sweden. Um, Take us through your training, because most people are fascinated about how somebody with a regular job, right, how you put the training in to do things like the quintuplet and other things like that.
Uh, First of all, it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
I've been an alpine climber and mountaineer since I was 17 or something like that, training trail running and stuff. So it's been a long conditioning to do these things. It didn't just happen. Um, I'm an academic scientist, and it works well because I can plan my own time. But so people can say, yeah, well, it's great, you have a lot of time. But for example, I don't look at TV very much. And I think if people are honest with themselves, they'll find some time every day. They can skip a little bit of that TV, maybe get like 20, 30 minutes in or more. And I think you can find time if
Yep.
you really prioritize. I think it's
What's your training like, an average week? And I know it changes by the time of the year, but let's pick like the fall, like, after the
Yeah.
marathon, you got a few small things to do, and then you got the whole winter. What
Yeah.
would an average week look like for you?
Now that I've kind of gone through most of my races, coming into the off season, I'll switch from doing very big mileage. Like coming up to my quintuple Ironman, you would do a big mileage. Try to get like 100, 150 mile running weeks. Next week I'll try to like bike 500 miles or like swim, 25,000 yards next week. Big weeks.
Yeah.
Now I'm coming down from that. It's going to be a little bit more strength. I want to do more balancing exercises to like strengthen my feet. Yoga for core and feet strength. And I'll do more like track workouts, work a little bit with my speed and my running form, and not so much the big distances.
Yeah. So when you said 500, I still remember my racing days. Like a 400 mile week was a lot.
Yeah.
What is a five? I mean, when you're doing a 500 mile on the bike week, are you also doing a lot of running?
No.
Okay.
So if I'm saying when I was training for a quintuple Ironman, you can't do all that in 1 week.
Yep.
So my kind of approach, my philosophy is, I'll do big weeks. So I'll take this week, I'm doing a big swimming week, and I will barely not do the other things. I'll rest from that, and then I go do a big bike week and a big run week.
Okay.
That's the way how
That's
I
kind of how you do
approach
it.
Yeah.
And you'll do a couple big days during the week, like if you're doing 500.
I try to get a lot of workout in a week, and then I get to the weekend, I'll just go like, with a bike I went like overnight,
Yeah.
or running overnight,
Yeah.
and with the running I can add in like a race or something.
Sure.
Like for example, before the quintuple I also did stuff like I biked all night, and then I didn't sleep, and then I went up and did the Toughman half Ironman like after that,
Yeah.
stayed on, things like that.
Right.
To like,
To kind of harden yourself up
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about, I mean, I'm sure this takes time to get into something like this. It seems like the Tough Mudders are very popular with a lot of people.
yeah.
Now, so if you had to give advice to somebody who wants to get into do a Tough Mudder, right? Let's say they do a bunch of halves, they do a bunch of, cycling events, but then what would you recommend?
For those events, I mean, first of all, like, all this sounds so crazy, these long races and stuff. Like, I really believe that anyone who puts their mind to it can do it. Like, I've seen some people you wouldn't believe that how hard they can push themselves, how far they can go, and they can do it.
Yeah.
Like,
So mental.
mental thing. Like, one of the triple Ironmans was done by a guy who was a double amputee.
Yeah.
I mean, you see stuff like that, you realize it's mind over matter.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to go, I think you can do it, and you should just do some general conditioning. I mean, I'm not a big fan of going to the gym and lifting weights, and you don't really need that to do these kinds of things.
Yeah.
I really don't think it's more. It's better to use your body weight to do the exercises, to do
Right.
burpees.
Yeah. So if you had to give somebody, let's say somebody had to do 20 minutes 2 times a week, 3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
It'd be what would be a combination? Burpees,
I'd say burpees,
pulls.
Together with running. Like another thing that, for example, a little tip that I have is a little trick is like a lot of these races have like uphill running, huge like
Yeah.
up and downs, right? And we're in New York, it's flat.
Yeah.
How do I do this? And regular lunges is a great way of simulating like strengthening your legs for running uphill. Like do a mile of lunges.
Yeah, and you can do that in your driveway. You can do that anywhere.
Just
Yeah.
do lunges for 20 minutes. It'll
Yeah.
start burning.
What about it,
Like,
stair climbing?
yeah, I don't personally do that much. So, but if I do it, I make sure it's only up and not
Yeah.
down.
Right.
Because I think you have to
A
be
lot of
careful.
stress on your knees.
Yes.
Okay.
So you could do that, but I'd probably just do it up. I don't
And take the
have a
elevator
huge
down or
stairs.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think of I see a lot of people talking about stair climbing because it's an effective thing to do when you're in a big city and it's dark, and days like in November, December time frame.
Yeah.
It's climate controlled sort of, and you can get a good workout in that way. Let's talk a little bit about the mental side, because I totally believe what you're saying is when you're out there for 24 hours, 48 hours, you can give up pretty easily mentally,
Yeah.
right?
And well, the key is this. Well, I realized this after doing a lot of these big events. You think like, well, if you go out for a short event, you're gonna be totally fine with that. But I feel like I suffer just as much when I do the short events as I do with the long ones.
Yeah.
It's just your mental set point, what you're ready to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So sometimes when I go out and do a short race, I'm like, oh, this is really hard.
Yeah.
Even though it sounds ridiculous when I'm doing these really long events.
Yeah.
So what happens is, because you push yourself really hard for a really long time, it's natural that your brain tells you to stop. Because when your body starts hurting, it's like your brain tells you to stop to protect your body.
Yeah.
What you really need to do is like teach yourself how to basically talk back to your brain, like convince your brain that no, you don't actually have to stop. It's just a figment of your
Yeah.
brain.
So what do you give us an example of what would you do? Like let's say you're really hurting, right?
Yeah.
And you're just halfway in the race.
Yeah.
Right? So mentally what would you do?
Well, first of all, if you do a lot of events, you get a certain, you're gonna hurt.
Yeah.
No, that'll happen a bunch of times.
Right.
But when you know that, you also know that you can come back up again.
Yeah.
It's not, because a lot of people quit because they go down, they're really low mentally, and they just go, no, I quit. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes you could get hurt for real, but a lot of times it's just that, right?
Yeah.
And when you get a lot of experience, you know that you can come back up again.
Yeah.
Like the first thing I do, if I feel really down, is check myself. That is, how is my feet?
Yeah.
Do I need to fix my feet? How's my nutrition?
Yeah.
And how's my hydration?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. If you check yourself, a lot of times you realize like, oh, I haven't eaten in a while. Oh, I
Yeah.
haven't been drinking. You check yourself. You eat some. You drink some, and most of the times.
And that also takes your mind off the other stuff,
and
right?
Most of the times, 5-10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I'm totally fine.
Yeah.
Good. Let's keep going.
So nutrition, right? Let's talk a little bit about your philosophy on food, because these are big events. You can't just rely on one type of food.
Nah.
What do you eat? I mean, on an ultra event like that.
Yeah. So for the events where it stretches more, I kind of draw a line somewhere around 24 hours. When up to 16 to 24 hours, I'll just do snacks. It'll be the regular snacks, not so much like gels.
Yeah.
Like gels, I'll use only for shorter races, up to a marathon.
Yeah.
But it'll be like snacks and bars.
Yeah.
Mainly, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
If I go further than that, I'm gonna have to add in food.
Yeah.
So when you go for 4 or 5 days, you're basically doing regular food, but you're covering that also with bars.
Yeah, filling it in with bars and other stuff. What about drinking? How do you, a lot of people, I mean, there's a big market for electrolytes and all that. Do you worry about that, or do you just get it with?
Depends on the race.
Okay.
Depends on the race. I do put in electrolytes and tabs and stuff, but I mean, I'm not big on putting a lot of carbohydrates in my drink. It's just a personal preference. I'll put some electrolytes in there, but I'm also I like using the salt caps.
Yeah.
They work well for me.
The salt tabs or salt?
Yeah, salt tabs.
Yeah.
Preventing,
the cramping.
Cramps and stuff.
Yeah.
It works well for me. You really have to try this yourself.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what
And it's
works for
probably
you.
also the time of the year too, right? When it's really cold, you probably don't need as much salt.
No, I use much less when it's cold.
Yeah.
Compared to when it's warm, of course. You got to figure out what works for you, and it's essentially don't change anything on race day.
Yeah.
Go with what you have, and don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Once you have your stuff, just
Yeah.
don't think about that anymore. Just go with the race.
Right. Right. So the nutshell would be like a lot of whole nutrition, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know.
I don't like. I mean, I used to when I was younger. I used to do all the supplements, a lot of vitamins,
Yeah.
all pills, whatever.
Yeah.
Whey protein.
Yeah.
And about like 10 years ago, 8 or 10 years ago, I just quit it all.
Yeah.
I do literally nothing
Yeah.
extra except for the food that I eat. Like,
Yeah.
I trust that I eat good food to
Right.
supplement.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a great way to keep your body clean, and then you can stress it as much as you want if it's clean. Let's talk a little bit about like how do you fit this in, because a lot of you talked a little bit about you being a research scientist. You got a little bit of flexibility. I think for me and for a lot of other people who really want to do this, it's that constant struggle of making it work
Yeah.
on a so it's
There's some ways you can do this. Like I know. I mean, I have a lot of things to do sometimes too. So, for example, training for an ultra event, there's ways of like simulating
yeah
that you've gone longer than you really have. Like if you go a night and you run pretty hard, and I mean not super hard, but you do a pretty hard run workout, and then the next morning you do your long run. So when you wake up in the morning, you'll be a little bit stiff.
yeah
You'll feel tired, and you go out and do your long run.
yeah
Then it's really what happens in an ultra.
Yeah.
That's how you're gonna feel at some point.
Yeah.
And you still have to go far.
right
So I do that sometimes too, especially when I'm low on time. I'll try to get a short kind of workout in that'll make me tired, and then the next morning, or I'll go for a long run.
yeah what other time saving tips do you do? Like I know some people who would listen to all their news that they would typically listen to on the TV,
Yeah.
just basically podcast it.
Yeah.
Right?
I do a lot of podcasting. That's what I
Yeah.
do. But I don't. I mean, I don't have cable. I really barely watch
Yeah.
TV at all. I mean, I have it at home on sometimes when I'm doing stuff at home, but I'm not big on following shows and watching
Yeah.
TV. And I really think if you're honest with yourself, it's a huge time saver.
Yeah.
Like, you can say that you don't have time, but if you're honest with yourself, you realize there's some stuff I could skip here. I could make some time here.
Yeah.
But I understand that people, it's hard, especially if you have like a family and
Yeah.
big family, it's.
But there are many ways to make it work. I mean, there are plenty of. What I do is I search people out who have kids and all that and crazy jobs, and just email them and find out how they did it, right? Because everybody I think has unique tips and tricks, and I think you can learn a lot from. Like one of the things that, like you said, cable is a big one. The other one was for me is emails. Emails are a huge distraction.
Yeah.
I got this tip from Tim Ferriss's book about batching emails
Yeah.
and only answering them twice a day.
Yeah. That's
It's a
great.
huge
That's
time-saving tip.
Yeah.
But it seems like a constant thing that everybody has to work on all
and
the
I think,
time.
as I said, like, as with your training, I
Yeah.
really feel like it's about being honest with yourself. Like, doing these events when I'm doing obstacles where you don't know what you're good at, like I figure out what am I really bad at. Like when I start.